Namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavata uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati neshtike Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Caitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sati Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirviseshasha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3. We're going to start chapter 4 today, entitled Vidura Approaches Maitreya. So text 1. Uddhava Vacha Athate Tad Anugyata Bhuktva Pitva Cha Varuni Taya Vibramshita Jnana Durukter Marma Pasprashuhu. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Thereafter, all of them, the descendants of Vrishni and Bhoja, being permitted by the Brahmanas, partook of the remnants of prasad and also drank liquor made of rice. By drinking, they all became delirious and bereft of knowledge. They touched the core of each other's hearts with harsh words. In ceremonies, when Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are sumptuously fed, the host partakes of the remnants of foodstuff after the guest has given permission. So, the descendants of Vrishni and Bhoja formally took permission from the Brahmanas and ate the prepared foodstuff. The Kshatriyas are permitted to drink at certain occasions. So, they all drank a kind of light liquor made of rice. By such drinking, they became delirious and bereft of sense, so much so that they forgot their relationship with one another and used harsh words which touched the cores of each other's hearts. Drinking is so harmful that even such a highly cultured family becomes affected by intoxication and can forget themselves in a drunken state. The descendants of Rishni and Bhoja were not expected to forget themselves in this way, but by the will of the Supreme, it happened, and thus they became harsh towards one another. So Uddhav is continuing his narration of what happened at Prabhas, and he's saying that the Yadus, they offered the prasad to Brahmanas first, and then they took that prasad, but then they got drunk by drinking some kind of liquor. And so that's why drinking is one of the prohibitions. It's against the Vedic scriptural injunctions. And it's one of the things that we have to avoid: to drink alcohol, being intoxicated. Because under the influence of intoxication, we forget ourselves, we lose um, what do we say, intelligence of what to do, what shall not we do, and in that way they started speaking very angrily to each other. And the words, you see, when we speak harsh words with each other, they get lodged deep in our hearts. It's worse than causing physical harm. The harsh words really touch the heart, and sometimes it never even heals. The physical wounds heal, but the wounds in the heart, they're very difficult to heal. Any questions or comments? No, then we'll go to the next. Text 2. Tesham maitriya doshena visham mikrita chetasam nimlochati rabav asid venunam iva mardanam. As by the friction of bamboos destruction takes place, so also at sunset, by the interaction of the faults of intoxication, all their minds became unbalanced and destruction took place. When there is need of fire in the forest, by the will of the Supreme, it takes place due to friction among the bamboos. So a forest fire, nobody goes to the forest to light a fire. The forest fire just happens when the trees, the plants, they friction with each other, and then just by the action, the forest fire happens. Similarly, the descendants of Yadu were all destroyed by the will of the Lord, by the process of self-destruction. Just as there is no possibility of a fires occurring deep in the forest due to human effort, so also there was no power in the universe which would vanquish the descendants of Yadu who were protected by the Lord. The Lord wanted them to be so destroyed, and thus they obeyed his order, as indicated by the word Tad Anugyata, that it was the will of the Lord. It's not that they got drunk like ordinary people, and then ordinary people, they started fighting with each other and they killed each other. No, this was all orchestrated by Krishna. It was his will. And the devotees are always willing to, they didn't say, no, I'm not going to act in this role. Like a director tells the actor, you do like this. And then the actor obeys the director. He doesn't say, no, I'm not going to do that. Similarly, the devotees of Krishna uses them as instruments, and then they go along with the plan of the Lord. Bhagwan Swatma Maya Ya Gatim Tam Avalokya Saha Saraswatim Upasprishya Riksha Moolam Upavisad. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, after foreseeing the end of his family by his internal potency, went to the bank of the river Saraswati, sipped water, and sat down underneath a tree. All the above mentioned activities of the Yadus and Bhojas were executed by the internal potency of the Lord, because he wanted them to be dispatched to their respective abodes after he had finished his mission of descent. So this whole pastime concerning the Yadus getting drunk and they killing each other, it was under the yoga maya potency, under the spiritual energy, under the internal energy of the Lord. Anything which is connected to Krishna is under the internal energy. Anything when we want to do forgetting Krishna, that is under the external energy, Mahamaya. Mahamaya, and the personification of Mahamaya is Durga Devi. They were all his sons and grandsons and were given complete protection by the paternal affection of the Lord. How they could be vanquished in the presence of the Lord is answered in this verse. Everything was done by the Lord himself. Swatma Maya Yaha. the Lord's family members were either incarnations of his plenary expansions or demigods from the heavenly planets. And thus, before his departure, he separated them by his internal potency. So the whole thing was Krishna's will, and Krishna was performing this whole pastime under the influence of internal potency, his Yoga Maya Shakti. Before being dispatched to their respective abodes, they were sent to the holy place of Prabha.
I just have one question. Because they were fighting, so these are the anarthas. So how could that be under the internal potency?
Because it is under Krishna's will. It was Krishna's will that
because they were making Krishna happy, because that was what Krishna wanting.
Krishna wanted, because Krishna wanted them to go back home. Krishna also had to go back. His mission had finished. He came to annihilate so many demoniac kings who were in the form of rulers. And so they were doing a lot of illicit activities, sinful activities, and Mother Earth was burdened. So the Kurukshetra war finished. So all these demoniac kings were vanquished. And then after some time, it was time for Krishna to go back home to Goloka. He didn't need to be here anymore. And so he wanted, because if the Yadus were remaining when Krishna left, then they would feel too much separation from him. So he made sure that they go first, and then he left. Some of them are his plenary expansions. Some of them are either incarnations of his plenary expansions, and some were demigods. So he wanted each of them to go back to their particular place.
So like a normal person like us can get sometimes bewildered with this.
So the way we have to not get bewildered by it is to say that it is Krishna's will. Orchestrated this plan. Like a director in the movie, he tells the actor, you do like this, you take a bottle of alcohol and you drink and you act drunk and you kill each other. So like that he did, It was his will.
So
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
She's on mute. I think mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So to the Yadus and the Bhojas, they knew that this all happened because of his will, Krishna's will, that we are asked to drink the alcohol, the liquor.
So the Yoga Maya potency is such for the sake of pastime. Now, if an actor is on stage, then how good is the actor is if he can really get himself into the role. Right? If he's not yet into the role, then even the audience won't like the acting. We can see that, oh, he's not a good actor. So the Yoga Maya potency, what she does is she covers it, and they think, oh, really, this is what's happening.
So that means they were not aware.
Yeah, they were not aware.
Not aware, right?
Yeah, they're not aware. They're just acting. And Yoga Maya potency, to always make the pastimes very, because the pastimes also have to touch the heart, appear real. So she covers their understanding. It's not like our understanding is covered, because our understanding is covered by Mahamaya, by Durga Devi. And it is coming from that I want to enjoy separate from Krishna. That's why I want to forget him. But the pure devotees, they are covered by Yoga Maya, that I want to do everything for the pleasure of Krishna. So I am going to do anything and everything for Krishna's pleasure. That is their mood.
Okay. Right.
Just like the Vrindavan Vasi, they were also covered by the Yoga Maya, right?
That's okay. Yeah, it's not that they don't know Krishna as God. They know he's God. But their love for him is stronger than that. They don't care whether he's God, because they love him so much. And then they want to please him. When we love somebody, we want to please that person. So, before being dispatched to their respective abodes, they were sent to the holy place of Prabhas, where they performed pious activities and took food and drink to their heart's content. It was then arranged for them to be sent back to their abodes so that others could see that the powerful Yadu dynasty was no longer in the world. In the previous verse, the word anugyata indicating that the whole sequence of events was arranged by the Lord is significant. These particular pastimes of the Lord are not a manifestation of his external energy or material nature. Such an exhibition of his internal potency is eternal, and therefore one should not conclude that the Yadus and Bojas died in a drunken state in an ordinary fratricidal war. Sri Jiva Goswami comments on these incidents as magical performances. So all this was orchestrated by Krishna's will. It was his desire that they live in this way. He wanted it. And that's why so Yogamaya, she arranged for this whole thing to happen. She arranged that the boys, they get cursed by the Brahmanas. She arranged that the Brahmanas also should curse them. Otherwise, they are pure devotees of Krishna. They cannot do anything to offend. Like, for example, Maharaj Parikshit, he was a pure devotee. It's not possible for him to get so affected by food and thirsty that he puts a snake around the Shamik Rishi. This was also orchestrated by Krishna just so that Parikshit Maharaj could come back to him. It was time. Krishna wanted Parikshit Maharaj to go back home, and also Krishna wanted to create a situation where Srimad Bhagavatam could be spoken so that we could take advantage of this Srimad Bhagavatam. So these are all pastimes of the Lord, and they are under his internal potency. So we shouldn't say, oh, the Yadus and Bojas, they also drink, and so even we should drink. No. It was all done by the will of the Lord. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. They say, right, Prabhu teri lila tu hi jane. These are all pastimes of the Lord, you know. Okay. Text 4. Aham chokto bhagavata prapanarti harenaha badarim tvam prayahiti swakulam sanjeshana. The Lord is the vanquisher of the distresses of one who is surrendered unto him. Thus, he who desired to destroy his family told me previously to go to Badrikashram. While at Dwarka, Uddhav was warned to avoid the distresses which were to follow the disappearance of the Lord and the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. He was advised to proceed to Badrikashram because there he could associate with the devotees of Nar Narayan, and in their association of devotional service, he could increase his eagerness for chanting, hearing, knowledge, and detachment. So before Krishna arranged this killing of the Yadu dynasty, and before he left the world, he instructed Uddhav, and that instruction is called Uddhav Gita. Those are the instruction, like Bhagavad Gita is the instruction that Sri Krishna gave to Arjuna. Similarly, before leaving the earth, Krishna instructed Uddhav. It comes in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He gave him detailed instructions and told him that you go and now you spread these instructions, go to Badrikashram, Narnara and Rishi are there, and their devotees are there. So you go and tell the great sages about this message. And he also told Uddhav that I'm going to be leaving, and all of us would be leaving. But Uddhav didn't want that. He was like, you take with me also, but take me also with you. But Krishna said, no, I want you to do this service. I want you to give this message to others. And that's the reason Uddhav left for Badrikashram, and he was speaking to the sages over there, the message of Sri Krishna. And where he was hearing and chanting more and more, and his separation was getting more and more intense from Krishna. So text 5. Tathabhi tad abhipretam jnanan aham arindama prashthato anvagamam bhartuhu pada vishleshan nakshamaha. Yet, in spite of my knowing his desire to destroy the dynasty, O Arindama, Vidur, I followed him because it was impossible for me to bear separation from the lotus feet of the Master. Uddhav is very attached to Krishna. It's impossible for him to live without Krishna. Adraksham ekam asinam vichinvan daityam patim Sriniketam Saraswatyam Kritaketam Aketanam. Thus following, I saw my patron, the Master, Lord Sri Krishna, sitting alone and deeply thinking, taking shelter on the bank of the river Saraswati, although he is the shelter of the goddess of fortune. Those who are in the renounced order of life often take shelter under a tree. The Lord was found by Uddhav in that condition of taking shelter, as do persons who have no shelter. Because he's the proprietor of everything, everywhere is his shelter, and everywhere is under his shelter. So Uddhav was saying that although Krishna told him, you go to Badrikashram, it was too much separation. So Uddhav followed Krishna and he saw Krishna. He was sitting under the tree. And so here the analogy is given like how the people who live in the forest, the sannyasis who have given up their homes, they sit under the tree to get shelter from the wind, from the rain, from the sun. And so Uddhav is saying here is Sri Krishna, who is the shelter of everyone. All of us, he's the shelter of all of us. And he is taking shelter of a tree. It's just, it's like he's just saying, oh, he's the shelter of everyone. And yet he's just like sitting under the tree as if he needs the shelter of the tree. Sri Krishna, his lotus feet is the supreme destination that the pure devotees aspire for. So whether we know it or we don't know it, he is the supreme shelter. He's the one who protects us. It's just the devotees, they are aware of it. And then there are some of us who are not aware of it. The entire material and spiritual cosmic manifestation is sustained by him. And therefore, he's the shelter of everything. So there was nothing astonishing in his taking shelter in the way of the unsheltered who are in the renounced order of life. The whole material creation, the whole spiritual creation is all created by Krishna. So he's the ultimate shelter. Everything is under his control. Nothing can move without his sanction. Shyama vadatam brajam prashantaruna lochanam durbis chaturbir viditam pita kusambharena cha. The Lord's body is blackish, but is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and very, very beautiful. His eyes are always peaceful, and they are reddish, like the rising morning sun. I could immediately recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his four hands, different symbolic representations, and yellow silk garments. Here Uddhav is saying that Krishna's body is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, that his body is Satchidananda. He's blackish, he has eyes like lotus petals with a reddish tinge. So these are the descriptions of Krishna that the pure devotees are telling us. This is how Krishna looks. And here Uddhav could see the Narayan form of Krishna with his four hands and with his yellow garments and holding different symbolic representations. Those are the chakra, and then the lotus flower, the club, and the conch shell. Text 8. Vama Orav Adishritya Dakshinangri Saroruham Apashritar Bhastham Shasvatam Akarsham Tyakta Pipalam. The Lord was sitting, taking rest against a young banyan tree with his right lotus foot on his left thigh, and although he had left all household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the Lord's sitting posture, keeping his back against the newly grown banyan tree, is also meaningful. Ashwatha, the banyan tree, is so called because the tree does not die very quickly. It continues to live for many, many years. His legs and their energies are the material ingredients, which are 5 in all. His legs and their energies. Earth, water, fire, air, and the sky. Okay, the legs, because we know the Virat Purusha, or everything is inside the body of the Lord, in the universal form of the Lord. And so his legs, all the is the representation of these material earth, water, air, fire, ether, and sky. The material energies represented by the banyan tree are all products of his external potency and are therefore kept to his back. The Maya Shakti of Krishna is at the back of Lord. She's at the back, and in front is the spiritual energy, the internal potency. So the devotees who surrender unto Krishna, they are under the protection of the internal potency of Krishna. And those who want to go away from Krishna, they are in the back of Krishna, and Maya Devi is at the back of Krishna. And because this particular verse is the smallest of all, this particular universe is the smallest of all, the banyan tree is therefore designated as small or as a child. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that the reason this banyan tree, that Krishna is sitting with his back against the banyan tree, because the banyan tree is representing the material energy. So the material energy is always at the back of Krishna, and also that it's a young banyan tree, small banyan tree, because this universe is the smallest. Tyakta Pipalam indicates that he had now finished his pastimes in this particular small universe. But since the Lord is absolute and eternally blissful, there is no difference between his leaving or accepting something. The Lord was now prepared to leave this particular universe and go into another, just as the sun rises on one particular planet and sets in another simultaneously, but does not change its own situation. So Krishna is about to leave this universe, but it doesn't mean that he's going to die. He's just going to go to another universe. He's going to appear in another universe like the sun does. The sun is there fixed in the sky. And then because of the movements of the planets, then it looks, okay, here right now we have the morning. So in America, it will be night. Similarly, now Krishna is preparing to leave this universe. So he's going to be going to another universe. His pastimes are going on eternally. Eternally. Any questions or comments?
No, all good. So few. Not heard.
So is there also some significance, like that banyan tree, like under which Krishna sat, as you mentioned,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
No, what I'm trying to ask is that, like, is there any significance also
To what?
to the tree that Krishna sat under?
So the significance that Krishna here, they're saying that okay, the I'm sorry, they meant that the legs of the tree represented the material energy. So Krishna's material energy is at the back. Maya Devi is sitting, so he's sitting with his back to the external energy, and it's a young tree which represents that this universe. So if it's a young tree, means it's a small tree, and so which also represents that this universe is a smallest one, a small one, and that Krishna is going to leave now from under this tree. So it signifies that Krishna is going to be leaving this universe. And but his leaving this universe is like the sun, that the sun sets in one part of the world, but simultaneously rises in another part. So Krishna would be leaving from here, but he'll go to another universe. He never dies. He's always eternal. It's not like some people, they say, oh, Krishna was born on this date and he died at this date. No, Krishna never dies. His body is eternal. So we can stop here for today.
Okay.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Prem, Hari Hari, Hare Hare.
Krishna.
So much